Meet Mei Ling, an elderly woman in ancient China, as she meticulously prepares a small hut on the outskirts of her village. She arranges simple furnishings, ensuring everything is perfect for its intended occupant, a wandering monk named Master Zen. She hopes her act of generosity will bring blessings to her family and village. Master Zen, a middle-aged monk with kind eyes and a serene demeanor, arrives at the hut. Mei Ling welcomes him, explaining her intention to support his spiritual practice. Master Zen expresses gratitude and settles into his new home, beginning his daily routine of meditation and study. Over the course of many years, she takes great care of her guest, delivering meals, mending robes, and tending to the hut's maintenance, all while Master Zen remains in deep meditation. Mei Ling's daughter, Li Hua, grows from a child to a young woman during this time, often accompanying her mother on these visits. 20 years have passed. Mei Ling, now in her 70s, begins to question the fruits of her labor. She devises a test to gauge Master Gen's spiritual progress. In a private conversation with Li Hua, now 25, Mei Ling instructs her daughter to embrace the monk and ask about his feelings. Li Hua is hesitant but agrees out of respect for her mother. Li Hua visits Master Gen's hut, bringing his daily meal. After serving him, she nervously follows her mother's instructions, embracing the monk and asking how it feels. Master Zen, now in his 60s with a long white beard, responds with the metaphor of a dried tree against cold rocks, expressing his complete detachment from worldly desires. Li Hua leaves, both relieved and puzzled by the encounter. Li Hua returns to Mei Ling and recounts Master Gen's response. To Li Hua's shock, Mei Ling becomes enraged, declaring her efforts wasted on a common mortal. Mei Ling storms to the hut, evicts the confused Master Zen, and sets fire to the structure. As the flames consume 20 years of devotion, Mei Ling walks away, leaving both Li Hua and Master Zen to watch in disbelief. Now meet Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a professor of Eastern philosophy at a prestigious university. She recounts sharing the parable of Mei Ling and Master Zen during a dinner with colleagues. The group debates the meaning of the story, with opinions divided on Mei Ling's actions and Master Gen's response. Dr. Tanaka's friend, Professor Mark Chen, brings up a recent scandal involving a well-known Buddhist monk who has taken a consort and indulges in luxury. The group discusses the expectations placed on spiritual leaders and the nature of renunciation. Dr. Tanaka finds herself defending the controversial monk, much to her own surprise. Troubled by the dinner conversation, Dr. Tanaka spends a sleepless night reflecting on her own spiritual journey. She recalls her time as a young student in a Zen monastery, where she struggled with the strict rules and her own desires. Memories of her mentor, the compassionate Roshi Nakamura, surface, prompting her to question her current understanding of spiritual practice. Dr. Tanaka begins to formulate her theory about the burden of choice that spiritual practitioners face. She writes in her journal, exploring the idea that monks may appear to have renounced everything, but are constantly faced with choices. She draws parallels between Master Gen's situation and the modern monk's controversial decisions. Determined to gain more insight, Dr. Tanaka visits a local Zen center. During her meditation, Dr. Tanaka has a moment of clarity. She realizes that in rejecting desire, one might unknowingly cultivate aversion. This insight helps her see Master Gen's response in a new light, understanding Mei Ling's disappointment not as a rejection of his progress, but as recognition of a subtle spiritual trap. Dr. Tanaka begins writing an article exploring the duality of the mind, focusing on how we categorize experiences into good and bad, right and wrong. She examines various philosophical and psychological theories, drawing from both Eastern and Western traditions to illustrate how this duality shapes our perceptions and actions. She revisits Master Gen's response, analyzing how his detachment, while seemingly perfect, may have been a form of rejection. She also reflects on her own experiences, recognizing times when her spiritual efforts were actually forms of subtle aversion. The concept of samsara, the cycle of rebirth in Buddhist philosophy, becomes the focus of Dr. Tanaka's exploration. She explains how both attachment to desires and aversion to them can trap one in this cycle. Dr. Tanaka consults with a Tibetan Buddhist scholar, Dr. Tenzin Yeshi, to deepen her understanding of this complex concept. Dr. Tanaka shifts her focus to the true meaning of letting go in spiritual practice. She contrasts this with mere renunciation, emphasizing that genuine letting go involves freedom from both attachment and aversion. She uses examples from various spiritual traditions to illustrate this point, including Zen koans and Sufi poetry. In a breakthrough moment, Dr. Tanaka formulates her theory about the wisdom of picking up as a complement to letting go. She argues that true spiritual freedom involves the ability to engage with the world without being trapped by it. Armed with her new insights, Dr. Tanaka revisits the parable of Mei Ling and Master Gen. She offers a fresh interpretation, suggesting that Mei Ling's actions were not merely disappointment, but a profound teaching in themselves. Dr. Tanaka proposes that Mei Ling recognized a deeper truth about attachment and aversion that Master Gen had missed. Dr. Tanaka applies her new understanding to the case of the controversial modern monk. She argues that his actions, while seemingly contradictory to traditional vows, might represent a different kind of spiritual practice, one that engages with the world rather than retreating from it. She acknowledges the complexity and potential pitfalls of this approach. She discusses the challenges of maintaining spiritual practice in a complex, interconnected world, offering practical suggestions for balancing engagement and detachment. Dr. Tanaka reflects on how this intellectual and spiritual journey has transformed her own understanding and practice, presents her findings at a major conference on Eastern philosophy. Her talk, which synthesizes her insights about duality, letting go, and picking up, sparks intense debate and interest among her colleagues. She also shares her ideas in a more accessible format through a series of public lectures and a podcast. How amazing would it be for the ancient philosophers to see and understand how modern technology can help their teachings reach worldwide audiences?